Cam Newton is going to speak on the real reason why Curt Signetti and Indiana were able to win a national championship. Let's hear it.
Signetti's cracked the code of the future of college football, where experience and age matters way more than stars. Look how old his team is. First, look at all the year 5 and year 6 guys. This experience will win out over a 5-star that's only 18. How about this one? The average age of their team is 23 years old. That's an NFL team. The Packers' average age is 25. In fact, Indiana doesn't have a single offensive player under 21, and they play more 6th-year seniors than underclassmen. A lot of Indiana's old impact players don't show up on these charts because 6 years ago they were only rated a 3-star. The true blue chip 5-stars, they're off to the NFL by 21. Here's what Signetti looks for. You're a 2 or 3-star out of high school, but by the time you're transferring, you're up to a 4-star and 22 years old. This is Fernando Mendoza, by the way. He won the Heisman. He admitted in a recent interview his type is to bring 15 or 20 guys out of high school, but fill the rest of the roster with guys who started 2 or 3 years at another Power 4 school. But while these guys didn't necessarily have 5 stars by the name when they were 18, they will likely still outplay the 5-stars who are 4 or 5 years younger than them. Sure, there's always going to be a Jeremiah Smith here or there, but for the most part, a team of old guys will win in college football. And Curt Signetti building a disciplined team that's old AF is the new way in college football.
Old AF. Man, I'll tell you this, man. Coach Signetti is a person anybody who's competent could admire.
Yeah.
He's implemented a way of football that resonates outside of the commodity of sports. It's with business. It's with parenting and so many different similarities and comparables. And he's always the guy that he got this snobby look like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. But he's a great coach.
Yeah.
I think when you see a guy or when you see a team like Indiana and how they've been able to kind of flourish in this day and age of NIL and transfer portal, the thing that sticks out above all is experience, And as we get prepared for the potential transfer deadline, coming on Monday.
Which, I'm recording this the day after the national championship, so it's happened at this point.
The thing that I would challenge players to do is this. Chase development, not dollars.
Elaborate.
Development is go follow or go to a school, more specifically, go to a coach that can properly develop you into becoming the best version of yourself. How many times have we seen players, and they come in many types, shapes, forms, colors, and creeds, ethnicities as well, that he didn't get better. Perfect example, Ryan Williams. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
And it's not to say he's not getting developed at Alabama. I'm not saying that. I'm just using him as a person that we've seen
just skyrocket
his start.
Do y'all remember Ryan Williams? Did y'all forget about Ryan Williams? There's been a lot of conversation. So first off, Ryan Williams didn't even have an 1,000-yard receiving game. Like, I know everyone, he was in front of CFB, the game, him and Jeremiah Smith were supposed to be. I never understood the comparisons with Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. I felt like Jeremiah Smith was getting all this hype because of how dominant, and he looks like Julio Jones 2.0. Like, there's obvious reasons. With Ryan Williams, it was a few, you know what I'm saying? It was a few really great plays that I think kind of overhyped it. So I really have to say that I think some of the way that the media, kind of falls in love with these players for their moments, I think that can sometimes betray the true realities of some of these certain situations, right? So to Cam's point, could Ryan Williams be becoming a better wide receiver? For sure. But maybe he was never on that echelon that we thought. Maybe he was just an athletic freshman that people didn't know. And now he needs to take those next leaps and bounds to become a real true, dominant wide receiver.
Stardom skyrocketed, and then the expectation wasn't met in his sophomore season.
Yeah.
Whereas you got a guy like Jeremiah Smith who came on strong, then showed up stronger in a way where, all right, but more times than not, as an 18-year-old kid coming out of high school whose body isn't properly developed, not only is their body not properly developed, their mind isn't properly developed.
Yeah.
So the way you see the game is completely different being under the right development process when you're going to the 21s, the 22 years old, your preparation is taken serious more than not, knowing that, hey, this is how my body reacts to certain things. This is my routine that I have to master. These are the techniques that is implemented or that I have to implement in order for me to be the best version of myself. Too many times, and I said it in last week's show, too many times players are chasing dollars instead of the development. And if you're chasing dollars, you're going to different techniques, different methodologies, different philosophies, different schemes, and it's going to throw your algorithm off.
Yeah.
I think this is such a great point. It's funny. It's so funny, and I know y'all hate when I talk too much about Deion Sanders, but it's funny because Deion Sanders says the same exact thing. It's interesting because there's been a lot of conversations about, oh well, why can Kurt Signetti turn around Indiana in 2-3 years, but Coach Prime can't win a national championship in 2-3 years? And it's like, well, Kurt Signetti has been coaching since the 80s. Okay. Kurt Signetti also has been coached under Nick Saban. Okay. Kurt Signetti also, he didn't come from HBCU, from FCS to D1. No. He came from JMU, a Division I group of 5 school, right? And now JMU was FCS at one point, I understand. But a pretty respected, place before then. So the one-to-one comparisons, I really do think they're only there to, because people like to hate on Deion, right? And they want to frame all of Deion's shortcomings as the true reality of the situation. But it's so interesting, when he went 9-4, no one had anything to say. You know what I mean? A lot of people had a lot to say when they went 4-8. A lot of people had a lot to say this last season, after he was battling cancer. But when they went 9-4, almost won the Big 12 after going 4-8, it's almost like none of that matters. You know what I'm saying? So it's so interesting to me that no one cared about the people who now care about Kurt Signetti. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of them didn't care about Kurt Signetti last year when Indiana was a good team. Indiana, like this doesn't just, and that's my thing. I think we just live in a world where everybody just sees results, and they're not a part of what leads up to that. Like I said, the years of Kurt Signetti coaching, the different background that he has within college football, the fact that he took the entire JMU team with him to Indiana, the fact that he has a bunch of 25 and 26-year-olds, like, and I hate to almost push back on Cam, but like, where is the development there? Like, and I don't think I think it's a good idea. I think Kurt Signetti is a great coach, but when you talk about development, is Indiana showing you that they develop players or that they find players, right? I think Deion's problem is that he was looking to develop young 2-year, 3-year, maybe some 4-year players, right? Whereas Kirk Signetti's like, no, I need these finished products. I want to get someone who's 5th year, 6th year, 7th year, XYZ, and I'm not taking anything away. I'm just saying it's 2 different ways to skin a different cat. But people want to compare them, people want to say those things, XYZ. But I really don't think it should take anything away from what Indiana has done, especially not what Kirk Signetti has done. I think people look at him as in such a positive way. But I really wish when people had these conversations, they were in a lot better faith to understand the full scope of situations that are happening. You know what I mean?
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
sure.
If I'm a player that's in the transfer portal, these are the things that I'm looking out for. Who has this coach coached?
Yeah.
Does he have any first round picks in his repertoire or his resume that he has coached in years before? Don't sit up here and say, and a lot of times coaches say this, hey, at Alabama, we're wide receiver U, or we RBU, or man, that's Alabama. That's not you. You wasn't here when Julio Jones and Derrick Henry was here, bro. Mark Ingram and them. Man, you was at DeVry.
DeVry.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now when you start to ask yourself, what is a high school or a college athlete supposed to look for? Look at that. Hold these coaches accountable.
Yeah.
Because they can recruit you into a sewage-like system that's not conducive to your strengths.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about this now. I'm going to wrap this up. But I think that's such a good point though from Cam, because there's been a lot of leaks of, like, some of these NIL, what do you call them, agents, throwing money out there, getting people to hop in the portal and XYZ. Um, but for me, and I remember this, being younger, like, football is such a dependent, like, there's so much more nuance to football than I think people understand, right? I think that's where the whole idea of being a system quarterback, I think that's kind of silly. I think those are weird things, because the job as a coach is to create a good system, right? However, what happens is some of these systems aren't always catered to the type of player that you are, right? The system that works for Indiana, if let's say that hypothetically he had Diego Pavia instead of Fernando Mendoza, all right, okay, well, the offense needs to change, right? The way that is attacked needs to be changed. You can see that. So a system, I don't want to say makes the player, but the system determines how much of the ceiling a player can be at, right? I think you've seen plenty of players not look good in one place but get to that next fit, and ultimately that was the goal of the transfer portal, is to allow the people who, hey man, this 4-3 offense, or this 4-3 defense, me as a Will Backer, I'm just not liking the flow here. As a Mike Backer, this 4-2-5, it's just not, I don't like it. Right, and those things I think are core competencies. Not just, hey, you sent this person to the NFL, but look into that. What type of wide receiver was sent to the NFL? What type of offensive line? What type of linebacker? Because those things mean a lot more than just the dollars and cents. If the goal is to take it to that next level, if the goal is just to get playing time, you need to know: is it a 3-4 defense? Is it a 4-3 defense? Is it a nickel defense? They like to use stars a lot. Can you come in and come from that nickel position to the star? Like, there's so many things that weigh into it. And in the world of America, in the world of this untapped NIL world, where there is no salary cap, until there's a cap, until there's real legislation around it, there's nothing else that these kids are going to be deciding on besides money, because they've taken all the other decisions completely out of their hands by making it so untapped that the money can kind of forego all those different things. But I think it's a dope conversation, an interesting conversation, especially from a former national champion speaking about a national championship team. Which y'all let me know how y'all feel down below in the comments. Y'all be great. We'll see you next time.